In this video, I'm going to talk to you about age-related voice changes. So, will your voice change as you get older? The summary answer is yes. Voices do change with age, but they don't change that quickly. So, one of the main things that happens are pitch-related changes. So, for males, the pitch will, over time, believe it or not, increase a little bit. So, we have to be generalist when we say these things, but generally, male voices as they age get higher, but really in the later part of their life. So it doesn't happen too soon. So in the last couple of decades especially, voices tend to get a bit thinner. And that's because the vocal folds, which were kind of usually quite plump and vibrate and have quite a lot of mass to them, they tend to get thinner over age. They lose, like any part of the body, a bit of collagen and a bit of muscle bulk. So as the voice gets a bit thinner, you get a little bit of huskiness too. And sometimes it can be quite a husky voice as people get very much older, and sometimes not. And one thing I've observed is that if you use your voice well, people who use their voice a lot in later life tend to have, good voice quality for much longer. So very often opera singers, for example, will be still singing really well in their 60s, maybe not the same as they sang in their 40s, but still be able to do phenomenal things with their voices. And that's because those voices have been used and trained a certain way. The main difference in female voices as they age is that the pitch will lower. So usually around it'll be before menopause, but especially during menopause, there'll be a little bit of a lowering of the pitch. Now, it won't be so dramatic that people will notice that people's voices have changed, but the person themselves might notice a little bit, especially in their singing voice. So whereas the singing voice, you may have been able to achieve a higher range when you were younger, as we get older, it's very common for the range to be slightly altered and for the material you sing to change to truly reflect the best of your voice. Now, that's not uncommon, and nearly every singer will work to slightly alter their repertoire to better reflect their changing voice. And again, if you've used your voice a lot and as a professional, you may find that your range stays fairly intact, but at some point the higher pitches will be a little bit harder to reach. But this isn't always a bad thing. I mean, there may be some voices, for example, that when they were younger lacked a little bit of texture or warmth. And as the voice ages, it develops that texture. And some people actually aspire to those qualities in their voice, to have even a little bit of roughness sometimes in singers. It is something that people aspire to sometimes. As men age, their voices tend to get a little bit thinner in the later decades. And as women age, their voices tend to get a little bit lower as they get into their lower decades. Other age-related changes are likely to be breath support and how long people can hold singing notes for. And even in spoken voice, sometimes being aware of having a good breathing technique will help keep a voice going for longer. It is the case that if you actually work on your voice, some exercises, just like you would exercise other parts of your body, you can achieve a stronger voice. So by practicing exercises that perhaps bring the vocal cords together, help the vibration, stimulate vibration, there's lots and lots of exercises that do this, and even stretch the vocal cord. So stretching the vocal cords will increase the range, and working on the closure will keep that pattern strong. So in those ways, people can actually extend their voice for longer in terms of preserving how it sounded. But the later changes are not always to be feared, because they do sometimes bring a different kind of quality, a different depth, a different texture to the voice that you might actually like. If you found this video helpful, click the like button and subscribe to the channel.